Very good. It's now 8 o'clock. So time for the chanting. Why not? Why do we always have to do things the same way, the same order, the same time? And sometimes that does sometimes get you into a rut. And when you get into a rut, you're just going through the normal way of doing things, and what happens is that you get a little bit bored. And that little boredom, because it's not really challenging your awareness. When you do something new, interesting, you find out it does sort of challenge your awareness. You have to be more aware and more alert, which is one of the reasons why it's good sometimes to do something differently, especially if you're here on a long retreat, then to sometimes do things slightly differently. If you get very tired and sloth and torpor, honestly, one of the lovely ways of overcoming that is, instead of sitting the same way, facing me or facing the Buddha, turn around, face the other way. It's strange. It's not disrespectful. It is actually becoming more alert, more aware of what's going on. And that's one reason why I said the other day of learning how to do backwards breath meditation, or some of the other interesting ways of meditating. All it does, it creates that greater interest inside of you. I've often noticed whenever there is like any person in a great deal of stress, either physical stress, pain, sickness or something, it's weird, but it's almost like we have to do something. And because you have to do something, because you're in a bit of turmoil, sometimes you can look at all sorts of different ways, and this time you do it actually innovatively. And the meditation is nice and easy, and you get quite deep. Many times in my life, I've had to use meditation when you're in bits of trouble. For example, just already mentioned to you that time when I had scrub typhus, I could nevertheless go right inside and just get really peaceful. And honestly, just what a wonderful thing that was to be able to experience. When you felt about 3 or 4 weeks of fever, no energy at all, no one knew what was going on. And you just go into a deep meditation and wham, bam, you're just having a wonderful time again. All the time when I teach this to those people who have kids or teach the kids themselves about how to do the Year 12 exams, because that's what I did when I was a student at Cambridge. And it was supposed to be high stress. And of course I did believe people in those days. Only 20 years of age when I did my final exams at Cambridge, and of course you didn't really believe yourself too much. You took on board everything which everybody else told you to do. And so when they said you had to study hard, I did. But then I realized that's not how you did well. How you did well was just learning how to the midday session for lunch. Supposed to have lunch. It was a crazy time. And honestly, there was this weird 3-hour exam in the morning, 3-hour exam in the afternoon, hour break in between. There's finals in theoretical physics. So you have like quantum mechanics in the morning for 3 hours, then astrophysics of the galaxy in the afternoon for 3 hours, and then fundamental particle physics in the next morning for 3 hours. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in a row. That was really tough. But because I knew how to meditate, honestly, it really worked. It's one of the first times you realized the power of this meditation in ordinary life. So what happened was just you're meditating there. At lunchtime, I didn't have any lunch. Had breakfast and evening meal, a lay person. And then I meditated in between the exams. And it was great because it made it very clear how meditation works. You sat down and the first thing you realized was just how tired, how you were just obsessed with the past. It's amazing how people are obsessed with things. You don't have to be. It's crazy. Why would you have to think about the early morning exam when it doesn't matter if you did well, you did badly, it can't be changed now. The exam papers are in, finished. So why do people still think about that? It's just crazy stuff. So for me, because I'd trained a little bit, I could let go of the morning exam, just really easy. And then the afternoon exam came up in my head. Should I go and do some more study? Maybe half an hour, maybe I'll be lucky. What I look up maybe come up in the afternoon exam. Never ever did. But nevertheless, I was wise enough to say, look, I knew what I really needed to do well in the afternoon was to be peaceful now. It was so clear to me. You don't have to be sort of really that intelligent, because you knew that your brain was tired. You needed some rest. You need to re-energize yourself. That's always the reason why that when I was at school in the mornings, we'd always have playtime. And playtime at lunch, playtime in the afternoon, and holidays as well. And because it was well known in educational psychology, your brain can only absorb so much and work so hard, and then it gets really exhausted. Once it gets exhausted, you can't do anything. Which is one of the reasons why. And also, when you get exhausted, you also get critical and grumpy, and you start criticizing others. Isn't that the case? You work too hard and you're really tired. Get out of my way. What do you know? Out of here. I'm supposed to be meditating. That shows them you're really tired. So if anyone's angry or upset like that, you always send them to the restroom. Your bedroom, have a rest for goodness sake. And you come out much happier. And after that, just so let go of the afternoon exam. Let go of the future. I've got to prepare myself for the future. And the best way is being here now. All the energy comes back and you get some innovative ideas. And that's, honestly, some of my talks maybe you might not like, you've heard them before, they just don't hit the spot, but a lot of them do. People still keep coming to these talks. And I don't plan them at all. I just sit down here and see what comes up. And because you don't plan at all, actually, it's not quite true. I do plan. The way I plan my talks is to prepare myself beforehand by doing nothing. By resting the mind, getting the energy coming back. Because once you have a good energy, it's easy to give talks. And it's also, I've told this to the other monks, and also show this with the nuns as well. Oh, you have turned around. Well done. It's nice to do things like that. I totally approve. And but maybe some of you, maybe the young fit ones, maybe the next time we give a talk, you can stand on your head. I'm coming, it's okay to laugh. You can see some of the nuns, they're trying to smile and trying to suppress it. But anyway. The point is just doing something different. It just wakes you up and gets rid of sloth and torpor. And number two is that after getting rid of the past and the future, it wasn't meditating, it wasn't a retreat, it was an exam. So the next thing you do is go into the what's happening now. I always remember this, it's really shocked me. I've written about this, given lots of talks about this, but I was actually shaking physically. I was nervous. We've all got our idea of who we are, or who we're supposed to be, or what we're supposed to live up to by other people's expectations. And that's the last thing I ever thought, that I was so nervous and just shaking. But because I wasn't looking in the past or the future and I was right here, you couldn't miss it. Body was shaking. It's high stress, obvious. So because of that, I could actually watch the body. And just you learn how to feel it. And when you feel it, you get to know it. When you get to know it, it's amazing what you can do with your own body. You can relax it to the max. I don't know if they have this these days, but I remember when I used to watch the television 48 years ago, That was when I was still a lay person. And it must have been earlier than that. But they had this weird guy. He was like a bodybuilder, really lots of muscles all over him. And he just had his shorts on. And in his tummy, and they had some music on, he could move the muscles in his tummy along with the music. And just move this muscle and that muscle. And it was actually really gross. But being Ajahn Brahm, I liked it, so I watched it. And my mother and father, oh, this is terrible. Oh, look at this. But one thing I always remember that how could he move those muscles? Muscles which, you can't move. I can't move. They're there, but the training of that, how do you train yourself to move muscles which no one else can? And how you do that is you just start to notice the muscles there. Be mindful of them first of all. Once you're mindful of them, then try this, try that, and see what works to move it. Because when you're mindful, you get feedback. In other words, you do something, what works? Nothing works, okay, that's negative feedback. You move something else, and it actually works, it's moved. So you learn from that just how to move those muscles. And after a while, you can do all these stupid things with your muscles and earn a living. Just because simple mindfulness. But also on that, there was one of the monks years and years and years ago, and he had a bad back. It's just, it's not all monks and nuns have bad backs. But then, that some years ago, I what would be the ideal monk? If you could magic one up. So it's good for the lay people, it's good for the community of other monks. What would be the ideal monk or nun to say be in Dhammasaya monastery? And then I thought, they have to be, strong, have to be a very good worker, have to be able to be a plumber and a builder and a bricklayer and do all these other works. Forget about IT because there's so many people do that. Honestly, there is. And it still all goes wrong. But someone who can fix the toilets, that's really valuable. It's true. Then what else? Oh yeah, and somebody who can eat anything. So whatever food you give them, Sri Lankan food, Thai food, Western food, Indonesian food, I don't know, any old food. And they've got this incredible stomach, so they never get sick from eating food. And they also have to have a large capacity. As honestly, they have to be fat. You know why? Because actually people love giving you food. It's true, you come and give me stuff, so this is really nice, can I have this? And I've already got far too much, and someone else goes, you must have some of this. I see that whenever you go around the buffets, people are always watching you. It's really nice, this one. It's true. So someone who's really fat and can get so much food inside of them without getting sick, and people love that. Monks who are serious at the right time can give good talks, but also people who can be make you laugh as well. Because look, the world is a very hard place. Sometimes it's really disappointing. And sometimes, if I crack jokes was one of the ladies went into the hospital today, and I said, you don't need to go to the hospital. I told this to Leha a few minutes ago. Just stay here. Because as I said last night, we've got all these great nurses and doctors here. As also we've got our funeral director, so we can actually... And yesterday was great, because yesterday we had the backhoe man in, the big digger. So... Very easy to put a grave there somewhere. And we've got lawyers here, and lawyers can make sure that it can't be sued afterwards. It's so convenient. Just get it done. So sometimes people think that's black humour, it's really gross. But a lot of the time, if you can tell those sorts of jokes and lift people up, Because the happiness and the laughter is great for your physical health. As you all know, laughter is, been said for a long time, being one of the best medicines. Oh, I still remember this poor old lady. No, she wasn't old, she was middle-aged. And she'd been healthy for much of her life. And then eventually she had a hysterectomy. And she, I'm a guy, so I don't know how hysterectomies affect you as a woman, but for her it was a really big deal. And so she said, I really need to talk to you. Can you come into the hospital for a chat? So I went into the hospital, and as soon as I came in, apparently she didn't show me anything, of course, but she just said she had this big scar, incision in her chest somewhere. And she said, please, Ajahn Brahm, no jokes. And honestly, I just could not refuse to tell jokes. I tried to tell soft ones and warn, but it hurt a little bit, but also just gave her a boost as well, a boost of happiness, and so I think it all worked out in the end. So that was great. But anyway, that sometimes to be able to lift someone's spirits up is great. Because otherwise, when we do think, how many of us think negatively? Because we think negatively, someone coughs. You were coughing this morning. Yeah, it's COVID. It could be. And sometimes a lot of times people like to worry. It's really weird, the human nature, that when you don't have something to worry about, then we watch all these TV soap operas. There was this, it was a soap opera, when I was still watched TV 50 years ago, called, in England, the Coronation Street. And that was ridiculous. I thought, it's just a bit of entertainment. But later on, when I was a monk, I was reading, I think it was a Time magazine, and they said there was one of those episodes there, in that sort of, everyone knew it was just a drama, actors playing it, but they had some miscarriage of justice in the program. And everybody wrote to their MPs in the real Parliament. Yeah, and the real Parliament, in Westminster, it was their laws. If so many people actually sent in a letter to complain about anything, they had to have a debate upon it. So honestly, this British Parliament, instead of debating important things, like wars and economies and stuff, they were debating about Coronation Street. And I thought, why do people want to do that anyway? Why do people want to watch that? Is it Korean TV? Is it Korean soap operas?
Yes.
Yeah. And people watch that even though they can't understand the language. Well, and a lot of time it is because people are afraid of stillness and peace. So they always want something to disturb themselves. We love drama. I'm not talking what you see on the TV or see on the theatre. You're just making drama for yourself or for others. I've seen that very often. I think it's not done sort of intentionally, but subconscious intention. Life is very boring, let's make something happen. And be careful of that, because when we get into meditation, then actually we change. We start to value peace, value harmony, value stillness as one of the most important things in the whole world. And trying to fix up, say, inequality, fix up the environment, fix up all sorts of stuff. Instead we sit down peacefully, quietly. You wouldn't believe just how powerful that is. Its ability to leave things alone. not make them worse, and allow them to heal. I often notice that with sicknesses in the body. You know, if you have sort of a wound on your body, a cut or something, what do? You know, you sort of disinfect it, clean it up, make sure it's okay, and then put a bandage on it and leave it alone. Imagine you put a bandage on there and then it says, how is it? Oh yeah, not very good. I mean, how is it 1 minute later? Oh yeah, and maybe there's the wrong ointment on it. I'll take that off and try this other one. And you put the band-aid back on. Then you get on the internet and say, that's the wrong ointment. You've got this other one which is much better. We never give things a chance to grow, a chance to heal. Never give yourself a chance to get deep meditation. Always interfering. Is this the right way? Should I do something differently? And you can see where that all comes from. And a lot of times for people, we always take it into the negative way. And this is, now, the main part of the talk, I suppose, will be about more problems in meditation. And it's that thinking, obsessive thinking, and compulsive thinking. And as you feel an itch in your body, oh look, this is a story which illustrates this. True story, honest about this. That I was meditating in the jungle in Thailand. I was adventurous enough, he knew it, he wasn't that so dangerous. But sometimes you get your mosquito net umbrella and you'd be out there in the middle of nowhere, in the jungle. It's very calm and nice, and people would leave you alone. The place I really liked going was actually this is what Ajahn Chah told me, because lay people will come to you if you're staying in the jungle. You know, someone will find you. And they did this once. I remember meditating in the jungle and this lady came and she offered me 3 things. And she didn't speak. I could understand Thai and Lao, but she thought I couldn't. So she just offered 3 things in front of me. A bottle of Pepsi, a piece of paper, and a pencil. Because I'd been in Thailand long enough, I knew what that meant. The bottle of Pepsi was a bribe, and the piece of paper and pencil were for the lottery numbers. That was true. And I said, I don't give lottery numbers, and she took the Pepsi away. but anyhow, so Ajahn Chah would always tell us, if you really want some solitude, he said, go to they call it the Bachar, the cemetery where they burnt the bodies. He said, that was really good, because no one would ever disturb you there. I said, what about the ghosts? They'll never disturb you. So anyway, but I remember just trying to find these calm, quiet places, and there was no light in the jungles. So I was sitting down there one evening. And at first you have all the cicadas and other little animals and insects, they make all the noise. That's why these forests in Australia just, please excuse me, but they're so much better in the quietness here. And sometimes you go out there into the forest and it's gloriously quiet. And just really appreciate it, and it's just, oh, this is brilliant. Just you can't hear anything. It's so still and silent. It calms you down, it has to. You have to soak in some of the peace which you're feeling, or you're hearing outside. So anyway, I was sitting there, waiting for the cicadas and all the other animals to calm down. They did. It was really peaceful. Started watching my breath. So nice. And then you started hearing one of the jungle animals walking towards you. And of course, you don't open your eyes. It's a waste of time opening your eyes. You can't see anything anyway. But I just started to listen. What was this? And as I was listening, I mean, it's only a small animal, not a danger at all. So I just left it alone and just focused on my breath again, nice and peaceful and quiet. But then a minute or two later, it had come closer. And then when I heard it this next time, it was obviously much bigger than I thought. Because in the jungle you've got all the leaves and the twigs and stuff, and you can hear it just breaking these twigs and rustling the leaves. And I realised it was a reasonably average sized animal, maybe like a mouse deer or a small, what else would it be, I forget now. But it wasn't that of a problem. So that's like a civic cat maybe. Always remember the Civic Cat story. I'm just going off on a tangent again. Because the civic cat, there's always these civic cats, like little possums, that's all they really are, over in the forest in Thailand. But this one day in the Nana Chat temple, that day there was a funeral. It was on the full moon day. And so we did the funeral, it was no problem at all, never any problems. But then what happened afterwards was we had his little novice staying with us. He was only about 12. And this poor little novice, when he heard there was a funeral, a cremation right there in that monastery that day, we'd usually stay in the hall all night to meditate. And of course, he's only a 12-year-old or something, so he'd always sort of sneak back as soon as he could. We all knew he was going, just going to take a rest. Fair enough, he's only young. But this day, he was too scared to go out of the hall. It was just a jungle in the forest, and whatever lived in that forest. And so he stayed inside as long as he could, until his bladder was bursting. It was really a struggle for him. Go to the toilet, or sort of stay inside and be safe. So he couldn't stand it any longer. He had to go to the toilet. The toilet was just maybe 20 meters away from the hall. Maybe not that much. 20 meters I think about right. The squat toilets, the Asian type. So as soon as he could, he made a sprint for the toilets. He ran there. He got inside there in time and just closed the door, locked it, and so did his stuff. And after he was squatting down on the toilet, that's when he heard, how can it sound? Someone was scratching on the door. And it was too low to be not one of the monks. If they wanted anything, they'd just shout out or they'd knock on the door. This was scratching. And that poor little novice stayed in that toilet all night. And when the sun rose, it was only a tiny toilet cubicle, when the sun rose and it was light outside, only then he came out. And then he told us, I was almost attacked by the ghost. I was not imagining this, it was real. I was sitting in there and something was scratching outside and I was so terrified I stayed inside. Oh, you silly novice. That was a civic cat. Remember these are squat toilets, so there's always water in the bottom there. That is where the civic cat would go every night to get some water to drink. All that civic cat was doing was just scratching at the door. Please let me in. Please, may I have some water? He was perfectly safe. We've seen that many times, but this is one of the problems. Sometimes we exaggerate. We think, and the small things becomes a huge thing. So back to my story. In the jungle there, I know there's a medium-sized animal, but still safe. And then as I was listening more quietly, paying attention, as it came close, it was coming right towards me. And I realized I'd totally misjudged this. This was a big animal. There's many big animals in those jungles. There were the elephants. The elephants, quite big, so you can outrun those, or just avoid them. But there's bears. The bears are very dangerous. But there are also the tigers as well. And I thought that was a tiger. That's what it sounded like. And so I got concerned. So I came out of my meditation, opened my eyes, and I got a flashlight and shined it, looking for the tiger. Eventually I saw it. It was this mouse about that size. That's all it was, just a little mouse. But because of fear, I'd exaggerated the size and the danger of that mouse to being huge, to being a monk-eating tiger. You wouldn't get very much because I was really thin in those days. But nevertheless, it was a wonderful lesson to me in just how fear creates thoughts, and the thoughts manufacture something far bigger than what you actually, what's existing. To be able to see that and verify that, from that time on, I always make sure you don't get indulge and amplify existence with your thoughts. It's not that important. It's only Coronation Street. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But a lot of people want to see the end of the world. It's exciting, gives them something to do. But anyway, that taught me a lesson. And it's the same in your meditation. Shh, be quiet. And just when you don't have fear or excitement, you don't amplify any dangers. And when you don't amplify any dangers, you find that life is far more peaceful and productive. Even on one occasion too, which story should I tell? The one about when Ajahn Chah first went to overseas. He went to England. And of course, he was with a couple of Western monks there, and going over there to have a visit. And apparently, on Thai Airways, they had landing problems, an emergency. The landing gear would not go down. And Ajahn Chah was on that aircraft. And apparently they put even the foam on the runway in case there was any sort of real danger and a fire or something. And everybody saw that, through the window. And a lot of them came up to Ajahn Chah, please Ajahn Chah, please do your thing. Keep the aircraft safe for us, please do some chanting or something. And they all were looking at him when they were landing and just asking him for favours and something, oh please, please, please. But then just at the last minute they managed to get the landing gear down, so it was just an ordinary safe landing. And then everybody got their stuff and went out. And Ajahn Chah turned around to the monks with him and said, look, see all the people there? When they were in trouble, they were looking at the monks. Now they're out of trouble, they're looking at the pretty air hostesses. There's so much truth in that. That's what we're here for. So sometimes people's reactions, it doesn't matter what happens. Oh, okay, I'll tell my story as well about fear. This particular time also, that there was in the northeast of Thailand. Northeast of Thailand is really poor, and I love that place because people are really down to earth and they're just easy to talk to. But anyway, this time there were a whole lot of buses. The buses were taken from town to town, caught fire because they were not really well maintained. And even one of the monks I knew, he had to evacuate the bus, and the driver stopped the bus very quickly, everyone out, and the bus burst into flames. He lost his arms bowl. And so the thing was, I didn't read newspapers at that time, so I didn't know what was going on. But I was in one of these buses in the northeast of Thailand, and but because you're a monk, they always put you in the front seat. You've got the driver's seat, but then you're in the front seat, almost next to the window. You know why they do that? To prevent head-on collisions. Because they think the monks have got lots of good karma. So our good karma, by putting us up in the front, will stop head-on collisions. And they did that, and it was crazy stuff. There's one guy, or somebody ran about stories. One of these guys, as soon as I got on this bus from Chonburi up into Bangkok, he smiled as he stopped the bus. He didn't want any payment. He said, come on the front. So I went on the front, always right next to the front window. And as soon as he started, this is a busy highway. And they had a TV in the front there, especially for the passengers. But it was so interesting, he was driving the car. And it was my job to prevent crashes. That's why I didn't take any fare. That was really scary. But he was much wiser than I was, that bus driver, because it worked. And that was so common in Thailand. Always putting the monks in the front to stop head-on collisions. I tried that once on Thai Airways, I think going from Bangkok to, I think it was to London. And I said, I'm a monk, and because of what you do with monks in Thailand, you always put them in the front to prevent head-on collisions and accidents. I'm only flying economy class, but it was worth a try. It never worked. But anyhow, but one of those stories, and this is about your meditation. I'll get back on meditation. Just the way we have negativity if we think too much. And if we allow any negativity to come in, it just actually grows and affects our mind. And we're afraid of everything. We're paranoid. Or we're just negative. It's not going to work. I can't do it. I'm hopeless. How can anyone like me get meditation? Or how can I sort of survive? And that was a wonderful time that Ajahn Chah was building his main hall in Wat Pho Phong. And of course, you always want to help out however much you can. So as a monk, you haven't got any money to give anyone, because you can give your labour. So we're working really hard. And especially when it came to the time that Ajahn Chah had finished the main part of the building, had all this earth left over. Big mound of earth. Now normally you just get a bulldozer to move that earth. But that's one of the reasons why I'm sure he did this on purpose. To teach Dhamma in a very powerful way. Not just by words, but by actions. So anyway, he asked us, do you mind sort of moving the earth? And you can see it over there, and it needs to be moved over the back, and he showed us where it needs to be moved. There's a lot of earth, just by shovels and wheelbarrows, that's all. And so in those days, again, only one meal a day, finished about 9:30, and then to work with the wheelbarrows all day until you couldn't basically see anymore, until about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening. Really hard work. You stop every now and again for the bribe, the Pepsi, cola, give yourself a bit of energy. But then, this is really hard work. But like many others, that you did, many of you apparently signed up for the chores to help out in this place. It's wonderful you do that. You feel you've taken some, so you need to give to others. So you help out with the cleaning and the mopping and whatever else it is. And that's how I felt. So this is my teacher. It needs to be done. He had a point. So we worked for 3 long days moving that earth. And at the end of that, because didn't have much time, there's no showers or anything. You just got water and threw it over yourself. But it was a bit late at night to do that. So a lot of times in the evening, you just went back to your room and just, you crashed out, literally. And you still had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the morning meetings. So it was really hard physically. But I was young and had a lot of faith. And we finished it. And the night we finished it, Ajahn Chah went off to another monastery to visit. And the following morning, the second monk, his name was Ajahn Liam. And Ajahn Liam, so after breakfast, he said, I've been looking at that part of earth. I really think it's in the wrong place. I really think it should be moved. He had a point. So I thought, okay, fair enough. Of course, the head monks don't do any moving of the earth. They just decide where it's supposed to go. We're the ones who had to push the wheelbarrows. And it was really hard work. And I was really tired. And I was really dirty and really stinky. And that just encourages more mosquitoes to come and bite you to death. All those mosquitoes were having a wonderful time. We're pushing the wheelbarrows full of earth, being bitten by mosquitoes in the hot jungle sun. Oh, it was just really torture. But it's my way of giving my dana. So we finished it 6 days, continual work. I must have stunk. But when we finished it, I thought, tomorrow a free day, I can sort of have a rest after lunch, and then I can just wash my robes, wash myself as well, and do some meditation. I thought meditation was sitting cross-legged. It is really, but there's more to it than that. And then that evening, after 6 days, Ajahn Brahm came back. And after breakfast he said, "Why did you put the earth over there? I told you to put it over here. Move it." And that's when I lost my faith. Your faith's only got to last so long. I mean, what's he doing? Now they should decide for themselves where they want that earth. And now you mean I've got to work another 3 days, stinky, tired, no meditation? Oh, this is just too much. And so you started feeling rebellious. Started thinking of starting a union. That's why, for those who don't know, that many times the Anagarikas, the people in white, I'm just making sure there's none here right now, they started the ALF many years ago. The ALF was the Anagarika Liberation Front. Have you got one of those at Dhammasara? You don't know, do you? Wait and see. And of course, I was upset and angry. This is the best part of the story. You may have heard it before, but it's a beautiful one. And you also apply it to your meditation. I was upset. And I was swearing in English. So the Thais could understand me. But of course they could. You don't need to sort of look at the words, look at the body language. And there's one beautiful monk. I can't forget his name, but if he came up to me right now, I'd bow 3 times to him and say thank you. It wasn't Ajahn Chah, Ajahn Lim, it was just one of the other monks. He came up and said, "Brahm, pushing the wheelbarrow is the easy part. Thinking about it is the hard part." Oh my goodness. I remember those words, and I just, whatever I do in life, whether it's meditating, whether it's teaching, whether it's not sleeping at night, whether it's talking to people, whether it's ordaining bhikkhunis, or whatever you have to do in life, thinking about it is the hard part. Doing it is really easy. Even eventually when you get sick and die, honestly, dying is really easy. Thinking about it is the hard part. That's what? I'm not me. Oh, dying, yeah, you've done it many times. Just next time you do it, get it right. But the thinking about it, that is the problem always. Same as meditation. People sometimes come up and say, "I can't meditate. I'm afraid to meditate," or "I haven't got time to meditate. It hurts to meditate." Or, stop thinking about it. Just cross your legs and do it. "But I can't get jhana." Oh, no.